Many phenomena, wars, plagues, sudden audits, have been advanced as evidence for the hidden hand of Satan in the affairs of man. But whenever students of demonology get together, the M25 London Orbital Motorway is generally agreed to be among the top contenders for Exhibit A. Where they go wrong, of course, is in assuming that the wretched road is evil simply because of the incredible carnage and frustration it engenders every day. In fact, very few people on the face of the planet know that the very shape of the M25 forms the Psi Eau de Gras in the language of the Black Priesthood of ancient Mu, and means, "Hail the great beast, devourer of worlds." The thousands of motorists who daily fume their way across its serpentine lengths have the same effect as water on a prayer wheel, grinding out an endless fog of low-grade evil to pollute the metaphysical atmosphere for the scores of miles around. It was one of Crowley's better achievements. It had taken years to achieve, and had involved 3 computer hacks, 2 break-ins, 1 minor bribery, and on one wet night when all else had failed, 2 squelchy hours in a field, shifting the marker pegs a few but occultly incredibly significant meters. When Crowley had watched the first 30-mile-long tailback, he'd experienced the lovely, warm feeling of a bad job well done. It had earned him a commendation. Crowley was currently doing 110 miles per hour somewhere east of Slough. Nothing about him looked particularly demonic, at least by classical standards. No horns, no wings. Admittedly, he was listening to a Best of Queen tape, but no conclusion should be drawn from this because all tapes left in the car for more than about a fortnight metamorphose into Best of Queen albums. No particularly demonic thoughts were going through his head. In fact, he was currently wondering vaguely who Moe and Shandon were. Crowley had dark hair, good cheekbones, and he was wearing snakeskin shoes. Or at least, presumably, he was wearing shoes, and he could do really weird things with his tongue, and whenever he forgot himself, he had a tendency to hiss. Like that. He also didn't blink much. The car he was driving was a 1926 black Bentley, one owner from new, and that owner had been Crowley. He'd looked after it. The reason he was late was that he was enjoying the 20th century immensely. It was much better than the 17th, and a lot better than the 14th. One of the nice things about time, Crowley always said, was that it was steadily taking him further and further away from the 14th century. The most bloody, boring 100 years on God's, excuse his French, earth. The 20th century was anything but boring. In fact, a flashing blue light in his rearview mirror had been telling Crowley for the last 50 seconds that he was being followed by 2 men who would like to make it even more interesting for him. He glanced at his watch, which was designed for the kind of rich deep-sea diver who likes to know what time it is in 21 world capitals while he's down there.
It was custom-made for Crowley. Getting just one chip custom-made is incredibly expensive, but he could afford it. This watch gave the time in 20 world capitals, and in the capital city in another place, where it was always one time, and that was too late.
The Bentley thundered up the exit ramp, took the corner on 2 wheels, and plunged down a leafy road. The blue light followed. Crowley sighed, took one hand from the wheel, and, half-turning, made a complicated gesture over his shoulder. The flashing light dimmed into the distance as the police car rolled to a halt, much to the amazement of its occupants. But it would be nothing to the amazement they'd experienced when they opened the hood and found out what the engine had turned into. In the graveyard, Hastur, the tall demon, passed a dog end back to Ligur, the shorter one, and the more accomplished lurker.
I can see a light.
He said,
Here he comes now, the flash bastard.
What's that he's driving?
said Ligur.
It's a car, a horseless carriage.
Explained Hastur.
I expect they didn't have them last time you were here. Not for what you might call general use.
They had a man at the front with a red flag.
said Ligur.
They've come on a bit since then, I reckon.
What's this Crowley like?
Said Ligur.
He's been up here too long.
He said.
Right from the start. Gone native. If you ask me, he drives a car with a telephone in it.
Ligur pondered this. Like most demons, he had a very limited grasp of technology, and so he was just about to say something like, "I'll bet it needs a lot of wire," when the Bentley rolled to a halt at the cemetery gates.
And he wears sunglasses.
Sneered Hastur.
Even when he doesn't need to.
He raised his voice.
All hail Satan!
"Hail Satan," he said, and they said, and everybody said, and Ligur echoed.
Hi.
Said Crowley, giving them a little wave.
Sorry I'm late, but you know how it is on the A40 in Denham. And then I tried to cut up towards Cholworthy, but then, well...
Now we are all here.
Said Hastur meaningfully.
We must recount the deeds of the day.
Yeah, deeds.
Said Crowley with the slightly guilty look of one who is attending church for the first time in years and has forgotten which bits to stand up at. Hastur cleared his throat.
I have tempted a priest.
He said.
As he walked down the street and saw the pretty girls in the sun, I put doubt into his mind. He would have been a saint, but within a decade we shall have him.
Nice one.
Said Crowley helpfully.
I have corrupted a politician.
Said Ligur.
I let him think a tiny bribe would not hurt. Within a year, we shall have him.
They both looked expectantly at Crowley, who gave them a big smile.
You'll like this one.
He said. His smile became even wider and more conspiratorial.
I tied up every portable telephone system in central London for 45 minutes at lunchtime.
You bodies, he said. He said, that's what he said. He said that. There was silence, except for the distant swishing of cars.
Yes.
Said Hastur.
And then what?
Look, it wasn't easy.
Said Crowley.
That's all.
Said Ligur.
Look, people, and the...
And exactly what has that done to secure souls for our master?
Said Hastur. Crowley pulled himself together. I mean, what could he tell them? That 20,000 people got bloody furious? That you could hear their arteries clanging shut all across the city? And that they went back and took it out on the secretaries or traffic wardens or whatever? And they took it out on other people in all kinds of vindictive little ways, which... And here's the good bit. They thought it up themselves for the rest of the day. The pass-along effects were incalculable. Thousands and thousands of souls all got faint patina of tarnish, and you hardly had to lift a finger. But you couldn't tell that to demons like Hastur and Ligur, 14th century minds, the lot of them, spending years picking away at one soul. Admittedly, it was craftsmanship, but you had to think differently these days. Not big, but wide. With 5 billion people in the world, you couldn't pick the buggers off one by one anymore. No. You had to spread your efforts. But demons like Ligur and Hastur wouldn't understand. They'd never have thought up Welsh language television, for example, or value-added tax, or Manchester. He'd been particularly pleased with Manchester.
The powers that be seem to be satisfied.
He said.
Times are changing. So what's up?
Hastur reached down behind a tombstone.
This is...
He said. Crowley stared at the basket.
Oh.
He said.
No.
Yes.
Said Hastur, grinning.
Already?
Yes.
And, it's up to me to...
Yes.
Hastur was enjoying this.
Why me?
Said Crowley desperately.
You know me. He has to... this isn't, you know, my scene.
Oh, it is. It is.
Said Hastur.
Your scene. Your starring role. Take it. Times are changing.
Yeah.
Said Ligur, grinning.
They're coming to an end for a start.
Why me?
You are obviously highly favoured.
Said Hastur menacingly.
I imagine Ligur here would give his right arm for a chance like this.
That's right.
said Ligur. Someone's right arm, anyway, he thought. There were plenty of right arms around, no sense wasting a good one. Hastur produced a clipboard from the grubby recesses of his Mac.
Sign here.
He said, leaving a terrible pause between the words. Crowley fumbled vaguely in an inside pocket and produced a pen. It was sleek and matte black. It was glittery and a Telecaster. No, it was sleek and matte black. It looked as though it could exceed the speed limit.
It's a nice pen.
Said Ligur.
I can write underwater.
Crowley muttered.
Whatever will they think of next?
Mused Ligur.
Whatever it is, they better think of it quickly.
Said Hastur.
No, not A.J. Crowley. Your real name.
Crowley nodded mournfully and drew a complex, wiggly sigh on the paper. It glowed redly in the gloom just for a moment and then faded.
What am I supposed to do with it?
He said.
You will receive instructions.
Hastur scowled.
Why so worried, Crowley? The moment we have been working on all these centuries is at hand.
Yeah, right.
Said Crowley. He did not look now like the lithe figure that had sprung so lithely from the Bentley a few minutes ago. He had a hunted expression.
Our moment of eternal triumph awaits.
Eternal, yeah.
Said Crowley.
And you will be a tool of that glorious destiny.
Tool, yeah.
Muttered Crowley. He picked up the basket as if it might explode, which, in a manner of speaking, it would shortly do.
Okay.
He said.
I'll be off then, shall I? Get it over with? Not that I want to get it over with.
He added hurriedly, aware of the things that could happen if Hastur turned in an unfavorable report.
But you know me, King.
The senior demons did not speak.
So I'll be popping along.
Crowley babbled.
See you guys at... see you. Great. Fine. Ciao.
As the Bentley skidded off into the darkness, Ligur said.
What's that mean?
It's Italian.
Said Hastur.
I think it means food.
Funny thing to say, then.
Ligur stared at the retreating taillights.
Trust him?
He said.
No.
Said Hastur.
Right.
Said Ligur. It would be a funny old world, he reflected, if demons went around trusting one another. End of episode nod.
Okay. Book Club was created for book lovers by book lovers. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think, and let us know how my British accent can improve in it. Thank you. Freddie signing off.